Bambiz presents Elder Law Growth, the podcast that helps elder law and estate planning attorneys attract clients without wasting time or money. I'm your host, Jim Blake. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Elder Law Growth Podcast, presented by Bambiz, the team that helps elder law and estate planning attorneys grow their firms, fill their workshops, and connect with their communities. Learn more at bambiz.net, marketing that actually works. Today's guest is a true powerhouse in the elder law world, Julie Steinbacher. After 20 years as a geriatric social worker, she founded her own law firm in 2002, literally out of her garage, and has since grown it to 7 offices across Pennsylvania with more than 60 professionals. She's also the president of the $1 Million Solution, where she coaches attorneys to elevate both their practices and profitability. Julie is a certified elder law attorney, a certified dementia practitioner, and a nationally recognized speaker and author. Today, we're talking about a big opportunity attorneys often overlook: how collaborating with the long-term care industry can unlock consistent referrals, trust, and visibility in your community. Julie, it is great to have you with us. You've built a wildly successful practice and coaching business. Can you give us a quick background on how you got started and what fuels your passion for elder law?
Yeah, I started as a social worker in a nursing home. And at the time, I worked at my dad's law firm, which was, back then a general practice firm. And we did, anything on any given day. And I really wanted to help people in aging, both nursing home, taxes, death. And so I ended up starting my own practice, literally in the garage of my house. And it's now grown to 7 locations. And it's really exciting to see that growth and to see how many people we can help and serve and the communities that we can help make better.
And it kind of sounds something like right out of like a Steve Jobs thing, out of your garage. I got to ask, like, how did that even happen?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I left my dad's firm at a time that they were very much litigation focused. And I liked the litigation, but I had been doing jury trials and it really wasn't any way that I wanted to be a mom. And my bachelor's degree was actually in gerontology. And so I had this real passion around that. And it's interesting. I think one of the ways I became a leader across the nation in elder law is that when I left my dad's firm, I didn't want to, compete against them. I wasn't trying to be harmful in any way. And so I started doing pre-planning. And so at a time when we go back, pre-planning really wasn't a thing. Elder law attorneys back then were really crisis Medicaid attorneys. And so I kind of started doing pre-planning, talking to people who were 60 about what happens if you go into a nursing home, which is really something that's kind of mainstay. In fact, quite honestly, I think if you're talking to somebody who's 60, you're not talking about what happens if somebody gets sick, maybe that's malpractice because it's such a significant part. And for me, I was really just able to affect change for people in my community, and my business grew out of that. And so it was my passion that, is kind of the topic of this conversation about building that community, that presence, and collaborating with the industry to figure out how we can all do this better. So I'm a huge believer in collaboration.
No, and that's kind of where I wanted to jump into, like, the long-term care industry, obviously, right? And I know you're a big advocate for using and working with the people in the industry for referrals. So can you maybe talk a little bit about, why professionals like nursing home directors and care coordinators can be such valuable referral partners?
Yeah, I mean, Jim, before I jump into that, one of the things I have to make sure everybody knows is that I'm not talking about hiring somebody who goes and does visits at facilities. So that actually kind of irritates me when people say that, because just visiting a place and having casual conversations, that's not what I'm talking about. That can work for a little bit, but I'm really talking about, sitting down with that nursing home administrator or that discharge planner and saying, hey, what are the problems? How can we help? It's much more of a business conversation. How can we work together to make a better outcome for our clients? And by doing that, by entering the conversation, by figuring out how can we do a better job for the nursing home. So explaining to a nursing home the fact that they should send the medical assistance applications to us because we can get them approved faster, or we can help their cash flow. That's the conversation. It's a real conversation about how we can help each other, not just visiting. And I think some attorneys make the mistake. They hire somebody and they send them out to visit. And that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about really collaborating and figuring out how we can do a better job for everybody that's involved. And what are the gaps and the voids in the system? What do you do well where you live? What do you not do well?
Yeah, not just checking the box on, hey, I went and visited this particular
Yes.
place, like building
Yeah.
an actual relationship with the people
Yeah.
in the facility itself. So I guess what would be the best way for somebody like an attorney or the firm, or is this somebody that they're hiring to begin connecting with those professionals?
I think first it does start with a visit. First it's really just being curious about what people do and how they do it. And I think, sometimes what happens is people want to talk about their business and like, oh, we can help you. And you don't even find out about the business that you're talking to, that nursing home, that facility. Because we all know, for a nursing home, for instance, some are really good at different diagnoses, so some are maybe a better place for somebody who has dementia. Somebody's maybe a better place for rehab and has a better ability to get people to be back home after breaking a hip. So the first thing I would say to people is really want to learn about the resources in your community, learn about that nursing home, ask them what's their avatar, who do they think they can help, what do they think they do really well. And so for me, that does kind of start with a tour and talking to them to understand, and then asking like, what do they think the problems are, and seeing if those problems are something that you can help with. One of the problems is that people come to a facility and they're in crisis and they don't remember everything and they think Medicare is going to pay. And so for the first time, they're hearing this. So, our office for years used to give a one-page sheet that they could hand out that like synthesized the information about Medicare. And, today, knowing with the Medicare advantages and the Medicare appeal rights, there's so much going on with that right now. So just kind of figuring out how is all those changes affecting these and how could we be helpful to move that forward for that facility.
Where do you think you provide the most value for these facilities?
In some ways, Jim, I think just being part of the conversation and being able to help them figure out what their own solutions are, I think it is really helpful. We don't want to underscore that. Having somebody that listens, hey, these jobs are hard. They are hard. And rather than being antagonistic or just having somebody that's able to kind of meet that conversation and think those things through with them, even at a corporate level, to be honest, because we often all just know our little piece of the puzzle and we don't know anything more than that. And then I think, kind of banding together to get the word out that pre-planning is helpful. For me, I'm going to be talking to my clients about, you're caring for your loved one who has dementia. You want to keep them at home. And I hear that and I know that, but you need to figure out if something happens to you as the caregiver tomorrow, what facility do you want your loved one at? Go start visiting. Let's have a plan. Let's have a temporary plan. Let's have a permanent plan. As I'm having that conversation, then I'm also wanting the facilities to understand they should have the conversation with their clients about the fact that you don't have powers of attorneys, you don't have guardianships, you need to be doing that. So I think, once you understand each other and what you do, having a buy-in that both of us are going to value what the other one does and talk about that. And we're mutually helping each other, but also very importantly, our clients. I believe that we can make the journey better for the people that we represent and that we serve. I think when you're collaborating with people in your community, one of the things that we know is that not everybody's going to want to be in that conversation. And I think, just kind of sorting through who's like-minded with you and then spending your time with those like-minded people and then making the journey better for the people that you serve. And don't spend so much time with people who maybe for whatever reason aren't ready for that conversation, spend the time with like the 3 or 4 facilities that are ready to enter that conversation and that you guys can work together. So I do think, that's important, kind of the segmenting, deciding where your time is best spent.
And that's one of the questions that was just popping up in my head as you were kind of explaining that was, you've got a lot of different locations, right? And then around each one of those locations are going to be, I'm in Florida, so there's a lot of facilities, and I know it's the same in Pennsylvania. And so, of all the different facilities that are around each one of your locations, I mean, it's going to all of them, building the relationships, finding the like-minded people that are on the same wavelength as your firm, right? And then how many normally do you end up building a relationship with around each firm so that you have, I would guess you have like a little portfolio because again, you have to also think of your client, right? And you have to think of your clients, you know, uh, almost like their avatar. Because I mean, like I just know just based off the ones around me here, there's different facilities for different types of people and different incomes, different uh, levels of comfort that they would want to experience at each facility. So can you maybe dig a little bit deeper into like how you kind of pick and choose and figure out which ones you want to build those relationships with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great question because I think the answer is that those deep relationships are built with a small percentage, probably 25% or a third. So, if I have 10 facilities, it is probably 3 that we will end up really having that deep relationship with. Now, please know, Jim, we need to know about all 10. And I'm certainly not talking about the fact that I wouldn't make referrals to all 10, because just like you're saying, my job is to serve my clients the best. And so based on the diagnosis, what they're looking for, kind of connecting them is really, really important. But I'm not going to be spending my time visiting those other facilities or spending as much time sitting down trying to collaborate and help and solve problems that we have. So great example is, the use of the POLST form. And in some states, it's called a MOLST form. That's a great example of how can we do this better, right? I would sit down with the 3 or 4 facilities that were really ready to enter that conversation and do a great job with it. And if we can affect change there, and then we'd have to work with the hospital and the physicians, if we can affect change there and make that better, maybe those other facilities will come on board later on. But I'm not going to spend a huge amount of my time getting all 10, because what's going to happen is I'm going to be hurting the 3 that are ready. And this, Jim, is really a business rule. So many times in any business, people spend too much time trying to make what's bad good. And the most successful businesses are going to take what's good and make it better. Right. So I spend my time taking what's already good and making that better or the best it can be. And that's a shorter line than taking something that's really bad and trying to make it good. Now, you have to deal with the really bad.
Yeah, I think that is something that a lot of people, they like focus on the negative instead of focusing on the positive. And in the marketing world, my biggest thing is like somebody, you get like, I don't know, you'll host an event. I know you're familiar with like workshops. You host a workshop and you'll get great results. And then there'll be one internet troll that will say something like, I don't like your polo, Jim, And then it's like, turn the ad off. It's so horrible. It was like one guy in the basement of his grandmother's house that told me he doesn't like my polo. And now it's like, don't focus on that. Focus on all the results that you've been getting, or in this case, focus on the places that want to have a relationship with you and strengthen those ties. So that's it.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. When you think, like for me, the person that objected to the polo, I actually think that's a good thing because it's some sort of interaction, and I wouldn't, but that is kind of how I approach the world. And I think that is really true. Even in seminars, when I coach some people, they're so concerned about the people who didn't show up. And it's just like, no, you need to spend your time on the people who did show up and follow up with those people. And I think that's also kind of comes here, like another rule is that consistency, which is the follow up. I find that, again, and we're just using these numbers as an example, but let's say I had 10 and then I had to follow up with 10 people. That takes me a lot of time and effort. But real relationships are about consistency and steady follow-up. So if I have 3 that I'm really connecting with and I'm working with, it's easier for me to follow up with those 3 people or 3 facilities or 3, whatever they are. And for me, though, it's getting something done. Again, I use the example of what does Medicare pay for, or what are the issues going on right now with Medicare and the Medicare advantages? And so could we work together to educate people? And that could be in a seminar together. It could be in making a one-pager together, right? So that to me, again, is an example of we're collaborating to move it forward, because my real passion is making the journey better for people who are interacting with this kind of haphazard, crazy system we have in the US. And I think information is powerful. So I think if we can educate people, we can make it better.
And I know we touched on a couple of these things, but when you see some people, and I know we started with one of them, which was, but like mistakes to avoid, like just calling a visit this and checking that off the to-do list. Okay, that's obviously a mistake. You want to dig a little deeper into that relationship there. But other than that, I mean, I know that you've seen it all. I mean, what are some other mistakes that you see when firms try to do this, but they just don't end up doing it the right way?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. And I really do think it's the mistakes that we see is like just expecting that you're going to get referrals out of it. So I think that you have to build the relationship. On the flip side, though, Jim, what I find is that people don't ask for the referral. And that's probably the second. So although I say I'm not there just for the referral, I'm not shy about asking for the referral. So I'm not shy about also educating them about here's a husband and wife case, and here's what our office can do, and here's why this is important. And we'd love it if you gave us these type of referrals. So I would say the second mistake I see is that people don't ask for the referral. And then kind of building on that, the next mistake is that they don't pay attention to the referrals. Like in this world of like data, which is great, please know. But sometimes what happens is like that data is, nursing homes as a general rule. But we don't look through that and say, okay, which nursing homes? Because what we know is that if somebody gives me a referral, there's probably 10 more that they can give me. So I then need to be conscious of the fact that they did just give me a referral, and I need to follow up and ask for another referral, thank them. So again, I think there's that lack of paying attention to what's happening with that relationship and continuing to foster it in a way that you can serve more people together. And, you have to have good systems to know that that's happening. I also think it's always tough for somebody like me who's very busy running a practice, being an attorney, and thinking about, should I spend my time doing this? And the answer is yes. Sometimes I am the person that goes there, even as busy as I am. And that doesn't mean I do all of this stuff that we're talking about. But if my person who does my marketing or one of my staff people talks about a facility and maybe there's a problem that I can help with, or maybe they would want to hear from me, would I go and do a luncheon? Of course I would. So I think staying as part of that. Now, it doesn't have to be the person that owns the firm, but I do think sometimes the attorney should enter into that and it not just be somebody who does marketing. I think the whole team has to work together. And I think we do a really good job at our office working hand in hand with our marketing team and then understanding when we need to insert to be helpful to those referral sources.
And I want to emphasize something that you said that I think you touched on for a second, but will be very beneficial to repeat. You said if you get one referral, hopefully I'm quoting this, if you can get one referral, there's probably 10 more behind it. Yeah. And that goes in our world, that goes with everything, but especially with this. So I just wanted to repeat that again. I think that was worth repeating because it's not a mistake that you got the one referral, Right. So make a notation of that somewhere and dig deeper into that because there's probably a gold mine for you and for the person that's referring business to you there because they see value in you because they are sending that one referral. So I just wanted to state that again out loud because we kind of said that quick and I know that's super valuable for everybody listening to this.
Yeah, and that's consistent with make what's good better. Exactly. So they send me the one referral. Why should I spend my time on the people who haven't sent me a referral? Let me go to that person and care about, was that person well taken care of? Thank them. And not so that you can get another referral, but thank them because you're happy that they trusted in you. I think it's so much. Some of what I'm saying is authenticity. You need to be authentic. And to be honest with you, if you can't be, this is not the type of marketing for you. Uh, but if you really are passionate and really do want to make the system better, go spend the time and you will make your community better and you will grow your practice for sure.
Yeah, I always like to say like good things take time, you know? So like
Mhm.
it's one of those things to just double down on. I mean, real quick, I don't know if you have exact numbers or anything like that, but I mean, how has this strategy impacted, your firm's growth and visibility?
Oh, I mean, immensely has impacted us. When we were growing to our first and second million, so much of that was referral driven, probably upwards of 50% of what we did was referral driven. I also think the internet changed it. So, you know, Jim, if we go back, 20 years ago, if somebody made a referral to my office, those people called my office and came to my office. Today, that's not true. There's actually a study about this that if somebody makes a referral to my office now, they're going to actually Google me. They're going to check online. They're going to look at me. They're going to look me up.
Yeah.
Like, do I look good? Like, is my digital profile good? And not always are they going to come to me. So I think you also have to have a good digital presence. I also think seminars, evergreen webinars, in-person seminars provide an outlet that's really important that works more with these referral sources than it ever did in the past. Because today somebody might decide to come to my seminar before making the appointment. So if I look at, I'm sure of this because I do look at this data. Somebody will be referred to me. They'll choose to come to a seminar or a webinar, and then they'll make the phone call. But if we ask them, they'll say, yeah, I was referred to you, then I went to this. So some of that is what's happened, digitally, what's happened on the web and, Google reviews and everything like that. Some of that is a little bit post-COVID and people want more information. Like even when people do webinars or seminars, it used to be you do one seminar, people signed up and they became your client. Do one webinar. That's not true. We know in our marketing funnels, we know that somebody comes into my marketing funnel, maybe they get a book or something like that. They will maybe attend a webinar. They'll get maybe emails from us. 4 to 6 months later, they'll become my client. And I have very good evidence of that. So sometimes it's funny when I coach people and they're like, oh, that webinar didn't work or that seminar didn't work. I was like, well, you didn't let it work, So we see this in the referral marketing too, where that we have to work harder to grab that referral from our referrer because they're not just going to call my office like they used to. And so the other activities that you do really support the referral marketing more than it did in the past.
For sure. I mean, are you seeing that same data from all the different attorneys that you're coaching around the country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's amazing for us to see, we have different funnels with different seminars, how people will cross over. We do a lot of dementia focused marketing, but we also do like wills and trusts, long-term care planning, and how people will maybe watch 2 different webinars and then become our client. So I'd urge people, if you do one webinar or one seminar and you think I didn't get enough out of it, follow up, continue to do the same webinar. They'll come back to it.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we see that we get a lot of data off of that stuff. And I mean, to be fair, I will say, you still can run a webinar, you can run a workshop, and you can get a couple clients or
Oh,
a couple clients,
absolutely.
or you can do really
Oh,
well on that one event. But the goal,
absolutely.
what you're saying, and is true, is like, for example, the clients have been working with us for years now, and so they've been doing
Mhm.
these systems for years. They actually get more clients every month, not from their active like paid advertising that's running to those
Mhm.
workshops and webinars and things like that, or the ebooks. They're getting them from old no-shows or people that have attended webinars in the past that they're now ready to do that. And that's because they're doing things like sending out weekly email newsletters, and they're sending out other, drip campaigns and reminders and little nice educational things because, like you said, they get into your system, and yeah, 4 to 6 months later, they're popping up. And, for the firms that aren't doing those type of additional campaigns, they just want to do a workshop and then they let, all the people that were no shows or weren't ready now just kind of fall off the side. They're missing so many people that they could potentially help in their community because they just aren't
Mhm.
following up with those folks. So yeah, that was
Yeah, and
that.
I think this, to bring it all full circle too, I think it goes back to the referral sources because today we tell people don't just make us a referral, but you can send them to a webinar, you can send them to a podcast, we can put them in our funnel some other way. And so we say to our referral sources, people may not want to just call us. They might want to learn more about us, and here's ways that they can learn more about us. In fact, handouts that we give to our referral sources now aren't just make a phone call, but here's a podcast you can listen to. Here's our website where you can see our webinars coming up. And I encourage my referral sources to attend those events too, because I think it's all together more so than it used to be. And Jim, I remember the days of just having a seminar and you got plenty of money off of that. You didn't have to do anything more. But honestly, we were wasting time and money then because there was people who had raised their hand, they're interested in the topic, and we really should be taking those people. And you're correct, any webinar is going to generate clients and appointments, but there's more in there.
Like a lot more. Yeah.
In there that we can help. We want to help as many people as we can.
And one of the things I just popped into my head, I was kind of excited to think about. I don't know if you've done this or not. Have you ever done any like co-branded like landing pages that you provide like these facilities so that their referrals can take you to like a co-branded page where they can put their information in and then they get all the resources from the firm and it's like a co-branded thing?
We have not done that, Jim, but see how great minds think together. I think that's a fantastic
You just
idea.
have like a website landing
Mhm.
page subdomain on your active site
Mhm.
that's co-branded for the three firms that you work with. Not much needs to change between the three, and then they have a unique site that they can go to that they go right into a funnel, and they would be able to get all the data and it'd be co-branded, which I think that the facility would like, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's a fantastic idea.
something
Absolutely.
there. I don't know. I don't know. It just popped into my head, and I was like, oh, that'd be like a really good idea, I think. I don't know. So.
Right. Mhm.
Awesome. Well, do you have one final piece of advice you'd love to give to an attorney who's ready to kind of step outside the office and start building these relationships?
Yeah, I would encourage them to go for it. I think sometimes people feel like they don't know enough or they're hesitant or they feel uncomfortable. I would just tell people lead with the idea that you're helping the people that you serve and just be yourself. And I don't think there's, has to be any script for what you're doing, but just taking the time and entering the conversation, and knowing that you are going to get no's, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing a good job.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Where can listeners learn more about you, your firm, or the $1 Million Solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to dementiafocusedpractice.com. And that is through the coaching group where we have some offerings about dementia focused practice. Also, the1 million solution.com, which talks about our coaching group. Want to know anything about me as an attorney? That is paeldercouncil.com. And so happy to help anybody who is looking to grow their practice and wants to learn how to take their practice to the first million or the seventh million. One of the things that I think is really important for people to know is that I don't just coach people about what I think will work. I've done it. And the advice that I give is honest advice about the mistakes that I've made and the successes that I've had.
I know like attorneys especially, they like to see people that have done the thing,
Mhm.
instead of,
Absolutely.
yeah, have the theory about the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes. So if you can go on the
Okay.
show notes, you can click on those links if you want to look at those again. But that's it for today in the episode of Elder Law Growth Podcast brought to you by Bambiz. If you're ready to grow your firm using tools that actually work, head over to bambiz.net. Huge thanks to Julie for joining us and sharing a strategy that so many attorneys overlook, but one that can change everything. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show, leave us a review. It helps more attorneys like you find us. Until next time, keep growing, keep serving, and keep showing up for your community. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Elder Law Growth Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things marketing for elder law and estate planning law firms. Here you can find all of the tools and skills you need to market your own practice without wasting your time. If you like this podcast, please leave us a review wherever you're listening. And if you're ready to take the pressure off and let our team handle your marketing, visit bambiz.net and book a free call with us today.